live.
Okay. Well, I want to welcome everybody here today to listen to a webinar by Ann Hayner on the Agility Explorer. Agility is part of the WiSys product, and everybody who owns it does have at least one seat of that product. So basically, this is just to show you some of the functionality you get with Agility and some of the changes that are going to be taking place in the future, so you'll know where to find menu options. So with that, Ann, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Kim. Thanks, everybody, for coming. We really appreciate you taking a few minutes to look at this, whether you're watching it live or watching it later as a video. I'm glad that you were interested enough to take a look. We're trying to make people aware of a tool that they already have and may not realize that they can use it today to augment and enhance their use of Macola. So we're going to concentrate on the tool that you can see before you right now, which is our WiSys Agility Explorer. But I want to explain a little bit about it and about a couple other tools briefly first, and then we'll go into just a little demonstration of what you can do with the Agility Explorer right out of the box. Also, just to let you know, we're kind of in the process of changing over from some of the names that we've used for our products. So lots of you that use our scanning system in your warehouse are used to be hearing about Pocket ES. You're going to be hearing it called Agility Pocket ES, and you'll hear about Agility Explorer and Agility Form Studio and Agility Design Studio. We won't spend much time with most of those today, but I just want you to be aware that we're kind of using a trade name now of Agility, which kind of represents for us the fact that we try to make you be agile with the businesses that you have so that you can grow as you need to, and so you can do things that you weren't able to do before and do them more effectively and efficiently. So anyway, that's part of what we're going to talk about today. The other thing I want to make people aware of just before we really get started is the website that we have. We've revamped it substantially. And so right now I'm showing you the new WiSys.com website, and especially I'm sitting in the support area, because some of the things we'll talk about today, you can learn more about them by going to our online documentation area. So this page is also right now where you go to update and do things like that. But you'll see that we've really expanded our help here. And so we have a lot of different topics, and a lot of them are relative to agility and to some of the changes that are coming into new features that we've added, like cycle counting for serial numbers and things like that. So anyway, just wanted to make people aware that we have substantially changed our website and that this is a good resource for you to come to get information about the solutions that we have, to look at other kinds of customers that might have the tool, or to just get information about us in general. So I'm not going to dwell on that, but I just wanted to make you aware of the website so that you can use it. All right, let's talk for just a minute then about what is Agility Explorer and what is Agility Design Studio. Those two tools work hand in hand. Agility Explorer is both an analytical tool, which can help you monitor your information and your data from Macola, and it's a transactional tool that can act upon the data. So Agility can help you turn data into information and knowledge that you can act on to improve your company, to improve your customer fulfillment, to improve your shipping, to turn your inventories faster, all different things like that, to make sure that you're managing the business rather than having it manage you, which happens at times, especially if you're in a growth phase. You need to keep a tight grip on what's going on within the system. And Agility sits right on top of your Macola database, and everything it's doing with it is in real time with that database, which is important. So if you have exact progression or you have exact Macola ES, it will allow you to perform transactions without actually getting into your traditional Macola menus. With Agility and the WiSys objects, you can review a purchase order, for example, and then receive on multiple purchase orders, or you can do confirmed shipping multiple customer orders at one time. So Agility has the power to make your company more efficient and productive by applying easily constructed components. Upper management users can use dashboard components. There are Excel-style grid components. There are calendar presentations and process grids, and you're going to see some of that in just a minute. In addition, Agility is integrated with Crystal Reports. So it allows you to organize and distribute reports as needed to people. It stores those reports then in your SQL database so they get backed up. I know lots of users, especially if you've been around using Macola for a long time, have crystal reports scattered all over the place on lots of users' workstations. And it becomes tough to keep them up to date and make sure people are using the latest version. So Agility can be a warehouse for your crystal reports in addition to doing other things. There are two areas to Agility that we're going to talk about. Mostly we're going to talk about the Agility Explorer, which you see up on my screen. To create the tools that you're going to see in Agility Explorer, you would use Agility Design Studio. And Design Studio actually contains the projects and the components that make up what we're going to actually execute on in Agility Explorer. So everything works within Macola, works with the database that you already have. There's nothing that has to be added. And with the seat that Kim mentioned that you already have the ability to get in and look at these things. What I'm going to show you today are the things that come out of the box with Agility. So again, this is something that if you're a WiSys client that you already own. For those of you that use our warehouse management system, you use another tool. You use our Pocket ES tool. And I'll just bring that up for a second. This is just an emulated version of the Pocket ES tool. What creates these applications is another tool that we have called Agility Form Studio. It's the design tool for creating these applications that run on the handhelds or the scanners or the guns. So because they have a small screen on them, we have created a Form Studio tool to be able to create applications that take advantage of the limited real estate for fields and buttons that you have here. So anyway, that's just differentiating a little bit between Form Studio, which creates the applications that run on the gun, and then Agility Explorer. So we'll just go back to Agility Explorer. So let's talk about Agility Explorer for a second here. First of all, notice that you have menu bars along the side here. These menu bars correspond to areas that you're familiar with already in Macola. So for instance, we have a financial menu bar. And when I've chosen a menu bar, then various options appear underneath it. So we're going to spend just a minute or two on a couple of these, and then we'll move on to some of the other menu bars. First of all, let's look at the AR aging and talk about it for a minute. Now I'm working with some demo data, so you're going to see information here for just a limited number of customers, but it's all running with SQL in the background, so it runs quite rapidly and brings things up pretty promptly. But here's just a little recap of our customers and the amounts that they owe us, and you'll notice that my cursor turns into a magnifying glass. So if I want to look at something specific to a customer, I can go double-click on it, and it's going to bring up information about that customer. The data is old, so everybody's over 90 days here, but you can see that I have information down here relative to the payments and the invoices that I've sent to this customer. Also, you'll notice that as I drill into things, I have different cards that can open. So I've got cards for customer cards to see all kinds of information there about their transaction. I can actually even go in and change information if I need to, and if I'm authorized to. And that's something we'll talk about in a little while, which is security that you have here. So notice that you have basically a grid presentation, and then you have a little graph up at the top. So you've got some customer information here. All right? So different ways of accessing information. Now we're going to talk a lot about grids in just another minute when we get to inventory and order entry, but that's just one way that you can view some information. Now notice also that I have an export to Excel ability up here. So that if I have a grid up on my screen and I click export that grid to Excel, it's going to ask me to name that, and we'll just call it Excel AR May, and I'll save it, and it's going to load Excel, and it's going to bring that information up for me. So I have just within a couple of seconds exported the grid that I was looking for to Excel, so that now perhaps I can strip out some information and send it off to somebody else that needs to look at something. So I have the ability with the grid components to quickly and easily export them to Excel. For those of you that use Macola ES, you're familiar with things like this because you can do that in Macola ES as well. Okay, So we took a look at an aging really quickly, and I showed you some of the things that you could do. Let's look at another kind of view. And notice I'm just going to leave this little grid open and sitting here, but I'm going to move to a different menu bar on the left. Let's look at things in a calendar format rather than a grid format. We have a little calendar application out here called the Daily Order Total Calendar. So up this comes, and I get a filter on the side, and Agility wants to know what I want to look at. So let's look and see what kind of orders I've booked this month, the volume of orders that I've booked. So I'll choose the booked option, and I'll click OK. And the filter automatically hid itself over on the side, so I could get back to it if I needed to, but it hid itself. All right. And what I'm looking at now, obviously, is a calendar presentation for the month of May, and I'm seeing dollar amounts on various days. So I entered some orders into Macola, and the order dates that I gave them are the days that it corresponds to here. So if I click on May 1st, notice that a secondary grid pops up down at the bottom that shows me what those orders are. So those are the 3 orders booked on May 1st. You'll notice, too, that there's a little red ball by some of the days, and there's a blue star. So let's go look at the blue star day. That was a big day. We booked lots of orders, and you can set a threshold, where if you pass that threshold for the day, Agility gives you a little pat on the back, basically, and says you got a star for this day because you exceeded X amount of dollars. And I think the default right now is like $50,000. That's something flexible that could be changed with Design Studio. So if I wanted to look at any of these orders, I've got orders for various customers down here. If I want to order them by the customers, I can do that. If I want to order them by order number, I can do that. So any one of these fields, basically, I can make my filter, or I can order by them. So here I can change and order them from large to small. So now I'm looking at the biggest order of all, the $74,000 order. If I want more information, I can highlight that row, and then I can click on the order button, and it will actually open that order so that I can look at it. So now I'm looking at what we call a dialog screen that looks very much like the Macola order entry screen. And again, I've got tabs up at the top for my bill to and ship to information or billing information. So that's all here, and I can see all of that. And in addition, I have access right here from to an audit trail. So for those of you that are digging into audit trails periodically, notice that I don't have to get out and go and run a report. I can actually bring up a header audit right here if I need to. So it's much more convenient. Notice also that there's the capability of doing a pro forma invoice here. If you stored a Crystal report invoice form in your system, we can link that to this button. And then for those of you that have to ship, say, to international locations, to have a pro forma invoice before you're ready to ship the product or to accompany the product, you can actually produce a Crystal pro forma invoice right here as well. So there's lots of functionality that's available, and I'm just looking at this calendar to do that. So the calendar itself may not be something that you want, but perhaps you need to be able to drill into the orders. You can do that in a variety of different ways. So that's an example of another kind of presentation of information. And my aging's still sitting right back here, so I can flip back and forth between both of those applications at the same time. So that's an example of a calendar presentation and a grid presentation. Let's go take a look at another kind of grid now that's here in the planning and forecasting area, and that's the inventory available to promise application. If I'm looking at this grid, what I'm looking at now is not a grid at the top, it's more of a dialog, but I'm going to look for information relative to a particular item. So I'm going to use this particular bike, this mountain bike, at this particular inventory location in Macola. And it's going to give me some information now, again, about the item in general at the top, but down at the bottom I'm looking at the available to promise information. So I have a couple of orders that are coming in during 2 different weeks here, and then I have some pop orders down here that are going to replenish my inventory. Notice that as I click from cell to cell, that it knows which order I'm looking at. In this case, I happen to have just one pop order for each week that I'm going to make. All right? But I can also click here and actually look at that production order. So I can go from looking at that available to promise now to actually drill in to the captured bill of material for the product. And if I was short of product, it would turn that row red. So if I didn't have sufficient product, in this case, everything's on hand, so I have plenty to make this. But you can see what we've done here. We've linked different views together very intuitively. So now I can, again, go to my inventory location record if I need more information, to the item master, or I can look at inventory transaction history from here. I don't have to keep jumping out and going to different reports to run and bring them up. I can get to them all from one organized screen. Now, again, remember that all of these applications are just kind of example applications that will work for you, but they may give you ideas of things that you want to do to make things look differently. So let's go on a little bit more, and I'll show you how you can do something with that. And again, I'm just going to leave everything open up at the top, so I've got multiple tabs. So we're going to move for a minute into looking at a fairly large grid, which is one of the inventory master grids. So let's go look at the IM inventory master grid. And I'll show you now some flexibility that you have in using this grid. So here's a grid, and it's got a lot of different fields. And most people have decided information they want to look at, depending on the role they play in the organization. So they may not want to keep all this information up in front of them. They want to reorganize this grid entirely. So let's talk about how we can do that. That's one of the beauties of the tool that we're using here. If I don't want a field, I can simply right-click and drop the column. So maybe I'll just drop several columns here. And I would really like to have the buyer planner field moved over, so I'm going to move it right over here. And let's see, what else can we do? We'll just drop a couple other columns to make this a little more attractive looking. And now I've got my buyer planner in the first slot. I've got my item number here. So now I want to look for items. Let me show you how you can look quickly to filter items right within a grid. So let's look for items that begin with the word bike. Notice that as I start typing, things start shrinking down in my grid. So I've got now just my bike items because I filtered based on the word bike. And again, I've got, once I choose an item that I need to do something with, this is much more powerful than multi-level item view because I can get to all different kinds of information. So if I've gotten my layout, we call this a layout now. If I've gotten my layout to the format that I wanted in by moving columns, hiding columns, revealing columns, you can even go in and bring up the column chooser and see other fields that perhaps weren't in the original view, like extra fields that everybody uses or user-defined fields that people use in different ways. Bring those up, and then what I can do is I can go to my layout and I can do a save as. And so we'll just call this limited IM view, and I'll save that. And now if you'll notice on the left side, whoops, hang on, you'll notice that I have the inventory master, and then I have two different views. When I was getting ready for the meeting, I constructed an even more limited layout view called AN. So there's another view. So each user has the ability to move things around, to add fields, delete fields. You can even do math with different fields if you need to. And then you can save that and bring it up for yourself the next time you come in. The default view is always there, okay? So the default view always stays because only an administrator can change that. But users can create views in any way that they want to. Let's see. Let me show you something else here. Let's drill into one of these items. So let's go take a look at multi-level item view for just a minute on this item. And notice that I'm going to drag my view off to the side a little bit, so that's probably going to disappear. Now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick another item underneath. So without exiting and re-entering the screen, I can simply change the focus on the main grid that I called up first, and it's changing the view that I'm looking at here for my detailed information. So if I've got a more detailed screen pulled up and I still have visibility of the screen underneath, and I can change the data that I'm looking at simply by changing the grid underneath. So again, it's just much more convenient than the traditional Macola screens where you have to clear out the screen, go back up, and choose your item number again in this particular instance. So that's an example of that. Now, we've looked at several different kinds of grids. We've looked at the calendar. Agility also has the ability for you to do graphs. And so here's a built-in graph that shows you top 20 selling items. And it's just looking at the sales amount of items that have been sold and ranking them for you so that you can look at that. So again, just another idea of the kinds of things that are built in, different types of views as opposed to just looking at grids. Okay, let's see. We looked a little bit at inventory, and we looked a little bit at those pop orders that we can see and the captured bills. Let's see. Let's talk about doing something with purchase orders. We've talked about accounts receivable. We've talked about orders a little bit and a little bit with inventory, but let's talk a little bit now about purchase orders, because you can also process receipts against purchase orders. So let's open another application here. And again, you can see that all these things are just staying open across the top. Not a problem to keep them all here, so I can quickly get back to them. If I need to go double check something, I can do that. But here, let's look at PO receipts for just a minute. So I want to see what's coming in with an item called fork. Again, I could look at ranges of purchase orders, ranges of vendors, items, or even ranges of categories. And if you wanted Kim to change some of these things for you, she could add other filters for you so that she could create the ability for you to bring up a purchase order in different ways. So let's just click OK here, and up come the purchase orders that I have open for a particular item. So now, here's something that I like a lot. The purchase order receiving screen in Macola is not terribly efficient. There's a lot that has to be filled in order to fill it in. Here we've created a very streamlined capability for you to fill something in. So let me check this item. So I'm going to receive some in, and it wants to know how many I'm going to receive, and I'll just receive in one, and I can check that and hit the receive button. And, oh, it stopped me. It needs to have a lot number. Ah, I see. Because remember, WiSys supports bins and lots and serial numbers and all of that. So yes, I want to correct the entry here and put a lot number in. Or I could go look up an existing lot, although during receiving I'd be likely to be adding a new lot. And now I'll receive that item. And it's telling me that it needs serial. Maybe it needs an existing lot number. So we'll pick an existing lot number and receive it in. It doesn't want a serial number at all. It really wants a bin number. So I can receive in with grids, at least most of the time. Okay, let's move on. Let's go look for a different item, perhaps. Let's try that. All right, so let's see if we can receive in a bulk item, because I don't think that requires either a bin or a lot. So let's receive that in instead. And once it receives in, it disappears from my grid. So we've received in some bulks. I can also drill into a purchase order from here so that I can see the item and get more information about it. And again, I can rearrange this grid if I want to so that I can pull different quantities over so that I can see them perhaps at a different spot. And in fact, I did that here with this layout. Let me go run that one. You can see that I moved my quantity received and my quantity ordered over so that I could see better what it was that was left to be received. Now, you'd probably be doing this with a scanner out on the floor. But we do have folks that want to receive on a desktop. They either don't have scanners or they don't use them for receiving. You could also hook up a USB wedge and scan with that on your desktop as well. So you can receive here if you wish to. So that's just another example. Now this is actually called a process grid because it's actually executing our business objects in the background and actually doing that receipt into the Macola table. So if I were to go look at Macola, I would see that I now had created a receiver. So that's a little bit about some of the things that can be done in the inventory and purchase order area. So let's take a quick look at order processing. Virtually all of you that use WiSys already, if you're using it for order management, then you're probably doing picking tickets with Agility or with WiSys today in some way. So again, you can run. We have added OE pick management, pick ticket history, pick ticket cleanup, back order filling, acknowledgement processing, all of that. So let's take a look at what we've added to the pick management capabilities here. I can look at ranges of dates. I can look at all dates. Notice that I have some specific ranges set, like last month, next month, things like that. But we'll just run for all dates. So notice that some of the fields, some of the elements are turning orange here because I have a shortage of product, okay? So I might have enough for some orders, but I don't have enough for all the orders that I have for a particular item. So if I have items that are back ordered, they will be in red, but I've got at least some items that I'm short of, and so we highlight those in orange. We call these things alerts. And again, you can define alerts. Kim could take the Design Studio tool, or if you have someone in your organization that's good with SQL, Kim could teach them how to use Design Studio. But you can set up your own kinds of alerts if you want more than we have or others than we have, or you want them colored differently. Alerts just basically set thresholds and triggers, and when something reaches that threshold, then it has the ability to bring your attention to it. Again, when you've got hundreds and hundreds of orders that you're managing, it's helpful to be able to focus in on the things that are a problem for you. So you can see what's happening here. So if I'm actually going to ship something, again, like with receiving, I can check the row for the item that I want to ship, and then I can tell it that I want to print a pick ticket. And it's actually going to print my pick ticket, and notice that it turns green, and up comes my pick ticket because I told it that I wanted to preview it when I set this form up in the system. And so up comes my pick ticket, and again, this is just a crystal pick ticket with barcodes on it, so that when I send it out to the shop, the people that are actually going to go and collect the material to get it in the box and get it out the door will be able to do that. So I can bring up pick tickets from here. I can print pick tickets. So you can see what we're doing here. Again, because it's a grid, I can rearrange columns, I can add columns, I can move things around, do any of that. Okay, so let's see. Let's talk about another process that everybody needs to do, which is confirm shipping. If you're using WiSys, you're very likely using the confirm shipping process so that things stay real time as you process things. So let's look at confirm shipping here. So what do I want? I want to bring up orders that have already been picked and look at them. And I can do the same thing because this, again, is a process grid. So these are items, these are orders that have a status of 4. And now it wants me to tell it how many I'm going to ship. And if there's a lot number or a bin number needed, I'm going to be asked for that. So let's go confirm ship this item. And it tells me I need a bin. So let's go find the bin that it's in. And let's pick it out of the bin that it came from. Now, typically, if you're doing this without a gun and doing it on the desk, somebody's going to give you a piece of paper that verifies the bin that they picked it from. But I can see my quantities on hand, and we'll pick that bin and relieve from that particular bin. And it wants a lot number also. So I will now go pick the lot number that I shipped. And I'll confirm ship that order. And it will confirm ship and set the status of the order to confirm shipped and set the items to shipped, and it'll automatically relieve those items from inventory. So I'm doing it all from within the grid here. So that's kind of what this all looks like. Notice that I've now got so many things across the top that I have the ability to scroll back and see them. And at any time, obviously, I can close individual grids that I don't want to have open. So I've got a little X in the corner for the active grid, and that lets me close them. But you can choose to have as many things open as you want to. Now, some of you are probably using our shipping system today, Pick-Pack 3. We have a new enhanced Pick-Pack system that we have now, and it lives in Agility also. So we're just going to talk about that for a minute or two, and I'll just bring that up and show you that this is what the new Pick-Pack capability looks like. So it all starts by adding a carton to my screen so that I'm then going to put product within that carton. So I add cartons, put product in the cartons, and then depending on the way that you're shipping that item, the various methods of shipment will come up over on the side here. So that if I have already indicated on my customer order that this is to go UPS, and I'm using our ShipRush or ShipTrack product, then the UPS button would light up. If the ship via on the order says FedEx, the FedEx button would light up, and we now support postal service as well if you're using stamps.com. So we have the capability of supporting a variety of ways of shipping product here. If you don't have our ShipRush ShipTrack system installed, then you can ship everything basically via LTL, and that would still print paperwork for you like packing lists or bills of lading, and you can print package labels or bills of lading individually, as well as having them print along when you do the shipment too. So I just wanted you to see that the new shipping capabilities are here within Agility also. So we're rapidly moving most everything into Agility. When Kim and I talked about getting set up, she wanted me to show you another couple of things as well. One of them has to do with how we're now managing documents. For those of you that are familiar with this, you know that we can connect certain kinds of transactions to be able to produce documents at the same time. So for instance, when I'm receiving product, I could be printing labels. When I'm shipping product, I might have a packing list print out at the same time. So we're migrating all the document management capabilities over here as well. And you're very shortly going to have a screen that looks like this that allows you to control all your documents and the kind of document they are. And again, here's a crystal pick ticket that we looked at just a minute ago. And you'll be able to link certain kinds of documents to certain kinds of items or different kinds of customers as needed over here in this area. So you're going to be seeing some changes to our document management soon. And this is basically what that's going to look like. We also will have the ability to support more kinds of documents. Today we support NiceLabel and Crystal, but we are now putting in place the ability to put PDFs and JPEGs. So I stuffed a PDF in here today and then linked it to a couple of items. We've been asked by several customers that they'd like to be able to print documents that they enclose with a shipment. For instance, instructions for how to install something that customers just purchased. Or perhaps MSDS, material safety data sheets. So those kind of fixed documents, PDFs typically, can now be stored within the tool. You're no longer limited to Crystal and NiceLabel type documents. And again, those can all be integrated into the various activities that you're doing as you're processing orders, receiving purchase orders, doing POP orders, shop orders, things like that. So this is the new document, the new look of document management. Some of you may have discovered already that you already have the ability to manage your users here, because we already have users set up here. So we have different users that have security levels in the system. And now let's talk about that for a minute. As we go in and define our users, we need to make sure that they have access only to the various components that we've looked at. We've been all over the board today, going all the way from financial things through purchasing, order entry, inventory, production, but typically you don't want all users to look at everything. So within our user setup, not only can you define what they see on the device, but you define what their desktop looks like here. So we have the ability here to turn off and on all the different components or an entire area of components. All right, so that's what this screen now allows for a given user. And shortly we will have the ability for you to copy from one user to another user. So user maintenance now takes place here in Agility as well. And printer maintenance takes place here. So you have the ability here to set up the different printers and how they're used, and what forms print and where they print, and whether you should be prompted or you want to set defined printers, or so select when printing, print to the screen, go to various printers that you have set up. So that's all being handled here now. So we really have made an effort to move virtually everything into what we think is a little friendlier environment, and to get them out of the menus in Macola, so you don't necessarily have to go there to manage things. Now, before we get to the end of this, and I ask Kim if there are some questions, I want to show you another little tiny feature here. That's the Help About capability. When you go to Help About, you should now see the current version that you're running on. You should have a link not only to the general WiSys site, but also to our documentation site. So you can get to that from within the product with Help About. You can see the current users that are in the system, and you can see your license as well. So you have all that ability to check that from right within the product with Help About. Kim, that's about all that I have that I had pre-organized to show. Do you have any questions that you'd like to ask, or anything you want me to go over again?
The only thing I had that I didn't specifically see you showed them was the can build, and I think some people would be able to use that.
Okay.
Did I miss
all right,
it?
No, I probably just kind of scooted around it when I went into the inventory master. So let's go back to the inventory master then and take a look at that. So let's take a look at a manufactured item here. So I have an item called Bike MP. Let's open that up and let's look at the can build for that. All right, so I have a can build button. And when I execute the can build button, let me move the GoToMeeting controls out of the way here. It brings up a screen that shows me, in this case, a multi-level bill of materials, brings up the available to promise down at the bottom, and it's highlighting an item that I don't have sufficient quantity for. Notice also that if I'm just planning something, I can go up here and I can change the quantity. So let's say I need to make 25 of them instead. I can do that, and it'll change my need quantity over here. So this is what the can build looks like right now. We're slowly starting to develop some views, not only like can build, but some MRP views also that will let you look at what you're doing with more sophisticated manufacturing methods. So this right here is what we call our little can build screen. If everything's in stock and you have no trouble making it, then you don't have any red rows, everything's just white. And from here I can also get in and look at replenishments and actually create a pop order. So if I looked at this and determined I wanted to make a pop order from here, I could do that and set a due date on it and actually create a production order right from within this screen. So can build allows you to create pop orders as well. There's another place in the system where you can also create pop orders, but this is from within the can build. Does that help a little bit, Kim?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Other kinds of questions or things that I covered too rapidly that you think we ought to take a look at in more depth?
No, I think that's awesome. This looks really good. The only thing that just kind of triggered in my mind right now is, and I don't even know, we didn't really talk about this ahead of time, if it's available in Agility, but I have several people that want to create a pop order and produce it in the same step. Is that something available in Agility now?
I don't know if it's available right now, but I know that it can be done. I know people are doing it on the gun. What we would have to be able to do would be able to actually add a button to the bottom of the screen that would simply do the production function. So
okay.
There's pop production here today that allows you to report production. We'd simply have to add this as a button to another screen. So perhaps we would take the pop. Well, let's go look. I didn't look at this one before. Let's look at the pop production screen. So let's take our bike. I think we would just have to add another button, Kim, that would call the production reporting.
Okay.
So they could create and report all at once.
I know that is available in the POP module that you guys have, but I just kind of wondered if they'd pushed that to Agility yet.
It wouldn't be hard to do it.
Okay.
It wouldn't be hard at all.
All right. Well, that just happened to be a thought. So, but otherwise, yeah, I think that looks really good, and I hope that it give everybody a nice feel for what Agility can do and how they can utilize it in their company. So I think this was awesome.
It's got a lot of tools and a lot of capability. Now, the one thing I want to make sure everybody understands is that all of these different examples of types of transactions and grids and views that you have, Kim can change those for you. Kim can sit down with you and go over how you want yours to look or how you want it to act, or like just in the example we were talking about, how you want some slightly different functionality to be attached to something. With the Design Studio tool, Kim can go in and basically start with something that's already 3/4 or half built, and then modify it for you. So what we're trying to do is obviously make you more agile by making Kim able to help you more easily with things. So if there aren't any other questions, thanks to everybody for coming today. I appreciate it. I hope you got at least a quick idea of how this works and some of the power that you've got. You've all got the capability to go in and look at these things and run them right now with your one seat. So if you haven't updated recently, you need to get a hold of WiSys, get an update done, get on current code, and then you'll be looking at the things that I'm showing you today. So if that's all there is, Kim, I guess that's it, and we'll say goodbye to everybody.
All right. Thank you, Ann.
Okay, thanks, Kim. Bye.